The Capital Confidential podcast is brought to you by the Times-Union, the leading newspaper in New York's capital region. Subscribe today or visit online at timesunion.com.
You want to deport an undocumented person? Start with me, because I'm an undocumented person.
How do we beat him in an election?
We will. I'm going to run against him.
I wish you would. I wish you would, Dad. I would.
There are things in here that are unobjectionable because they're not that effective. So yeah, sure, I'll vote for a distinctive license plate. Sure, why not?
Jim, you had your press conference at 4 o'clock.
You're having a press conference now?
That's
You're
right.
talking?
I'm having a press conference.
Well,
now.
is this your space here or is it public?
No, it's my space.
Oh, this is your
Don't
space.
interrupt.
Okay.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is the Capital Confidential podcast. On this episode, I finally got Times-Union reporter Chris Bragg to sit down with me to talk about his ongoing reporting about the controversies surrounding Crystal Run Healthcare, the Orange County firm that is an influential political player and the subject of a federal probe. We began our conversation by talking about the state benefits reaped by the company in recent years.
They have gotten tax breaks. They got about $4 million in tax breaks in 2015, I think. But the main thing that I've focused on is the grants that it got in 2016. It got $25 million for two projects that had already broken ground in the fall of 2015. And the grants came in March of 2016. So it's very unusual in the construction world that you would start a project and then say, oh, I hope I get a grant so I can finish this thing. That's just not how things work, which is a major reason why a lot of people suspect that they somehow knew that they were going to win that money in advance.
Well, had they applied for money prior to breaking ground?
So there initially was bidding, I believe, in 2014, and then the legislature changed the law and changed the parameters of the bidding. So everybody resubmitted their bids, including Crystal Run, who had already bid. That's part of the Department of Health's rationale, is that while they were originally allowed to bid, they were allowed to bid again. And so they fit under the criteria, even though they had already broken ground on these projects before the money was awarded.
And let's go to sort of the controversy at hand. You mentioned how they've been active politically. Why are we talking about donations from Crystal Run? And who have they been giving to?
So the main person we're talking about here is donations to Governor Cuomo.
I've heard of him.
They've given about $400,000 between their employees and the company itself, or spouses. And that included 10 $25,000 checks, each exactly $25,000, over a 2-day period in October 2013, which the governor has said was at a fundraiser. He told us for the first time this week, actually, that it was a Crystal Run fundraiser, which is sort of somewhat different than a broad general population fundraiser.
Yeah, normally it's what a group of donors gets together. The governor has one. Everybody gives $10,000 to see him and Billy Joel play Piano Man together. In this case, you're saying what Crystal Run, during the mess hall said, "Hey, everybody, come on down. We're going to have some milkshakes and give $25,000."
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And if it's going to get
I got the milkshake part right too. Wow, that's.
Maybe not. I've got to do a little more reporting.
Okay, Chris, we'll wait for it.
If it's an industry-specific fundraiser where just one company has the fundraiser,
Mm-hmm.
You're almost guaranteed that the politician going forward is going to pay a little bit more attention to you because you just stand out more. I mean, it's just you. We had discussion of this during the Percoco trial, I believe. Guys at Core Development in Syracuse talked about how they had this fundraiser for Cuomo, where they showed off antique cars and they got to talk to the governor for a little while.
Does he likes cars? This is man, you are just breaking stuff left and right here. This is wild. Okay.
But it also kind of reminds me of a fundraiser that the Wall Street Journal reported on that Todd Howe organized just for Whiteman Osterman clients, where in that instance as well, about 10 different people came and each looks like they gave exactly $25,000, sort of oddly reminiscent of what happened in this Crystal Run situation. So I think a lot of people, based on the reporting that I've done, are wondering how exactly this company came up with the idea to each give $25,000 apiece, and whether it might have originated from somebody a little bit more deeply ensconced in the New York political culture that might have brought up that idea.
Because they don't have a long record prior to this of being big donors. Is that fair to say?
They have some record
Some
of
record?
it,
Okay.
but I mean that's just on a level that these are doctors, they're doctors by trade. They're not political operatives, and that level of giving is on a level that would be unusual for some run-of-the-mill donor to come up with themselves.
Does $400,000 pop when we're talking about the governor's fundraising? I mean, this is the guy who at one point had $31 million in a war chest. How does $400,000 rank up against some of his other big donors?
Well, that's a good point. Number one, to my knowledge, was Glenwood Management. Before they stopped donating after their legal troubles, they had donated some $1 million, I believe,
through all their LLCs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Crystal Run's not up there, but I think this probably puts them in the top 20 or so,
Gotcha.
which is sort of a sad statement on New York's campaign finance laws. But it is still a significant amount, and particularly notable, again, is the manner in which it was given, which is unusual even for Governor Cuomo's fundraising.
So let's take a step back. How does this get onto your radar? Are you just diligently, going through campaign finance filings? Does a source suggest something to you? How does this even get to the point where Chris Bragg is reporting on it?
Well, first of all, I need to credit another newspaper. There was a newspaper, I think it's called the Rockland Times. It's a small newspaper in Crystal Run's area that wrote an article about this back in early 2016, I think, questioning the grants and the fact that Crystal Run might not have needed the money.
Okay.
And also looking at, to some degree, the campaign donations. They didn't have all of them, but they had some of the story. So I think that deserves a little bit of attention, and that certainly helped me as I dug into it more and really amplified it. And then, after that story and just generally, I think people were talking about this, saying there was this $1.2 billion in healthcare grants that was given out by the Department of Health. Almost all of it went to nonprofits that have to play by various rules. They have to take patients regardless of whether they have health insurance or not. For-profits like Crystal Run don't have to do that. And it was very unique in the distribution of this money that Crystal Run got it among for-profit companies. So that was one anomaly that I think a lot of people noticed.
What's going on with regards to the investigations now? I believe you've reported on a federal probe. What's been the problem with these donations that might draw the investigation of federal authorities?
Sure. So Crystal Run says it was subpoenaed back sometime in 2017 after I wrote these stories.
Okay.
I think that things really kicked up.
So it sounds like the FBI is not reading the Rockland Times, unfortunately.
Maybe not.
But okay.
They are reading the Times-Union, though, I can tell you that.
Sounds good.
But in December of 2017, a group of 6 Crystal Run doctors filed a lawsuit against the company. And part of the lawsuit dealt with this idea that pooled company money of Crystal Run had been illegally used for campaign donations. And I wrote about that, and a few other people wrote about that. And I think there's a decent chance that that theory of it caught the attention of law enforcement, because it really seemed like things kicked up in terms of having a grand jury, meetings with potential witnesses and whatnot early this year after that lawsuit. That was my sense of it. And to my knowledge, the FBI is working on it. The Southern District U.S. Attorney's Office, Preet Bahar's old office, and the Orange County District Attorney's Office is providing personnel for it.
So you said pooling donations. Why is that a problem?
So the way that Crystal Run works is it's owned by doctors.
Okay.
The doctors, when they become partners, all pay in a particular amount of money every year. And that's to fund things like building a new building or general operations. So the argument in this lawsuit, among many other things that they had problems with, the doctors said that basically Crystal Run's executive board, Hal Teitelbaum, its CEO, and other people basically gave Cuomo these $25,000 donations and then reimbursed the various people who had donated $25,000 with pooled company money without any authorization from the doctors themselves. That was the most explosive political claim in the lawsuit. There was a lot of other things, but in discovery, the doctors attempted to get records proving that this manner of campaign donation had happened. And in fact, Crystal Run quickly settled the lawsuit and imposed a strong non-disclosure agreement on the people that sued. So I would theorize that actually this donation issue, even though it was a side issue in the overall lawsuit, did help them settle it because they didn't want to go through handing over these records about the campaign donations.
So does settling a civil lawsuit mean that criminal charges could be around the corner as well for people at Crystal Run, or no?
Well, actually, Governor Cuomo was really addressing that issue when he had our meeting with us yesterday. His point was that this has been going on for some 2 years, actually more like 18 months, but still.
The investigation?
Yeah, that it's been going on for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Straw donor cases are pretty simple cases. You look at the banking accounts, you see if they were reimbursed for a donation in some illegal way.
Gotcha.
And it's pretty simple. So Governor Cuomo's position was, well, if there was a crime committed, then why hasn't there been any charges filed? Why isn't it over? And he's also saying, my administration has not been subpoenaed, so they're obviously not looking at the pay-to-play aspect of this that some of my political opponents are bringing up. So there's no arrest on the donation part. There's nothing going on with the pay-to-play part. There's nothing happening. That was basically, I think, what he was trying to argue.
Well, you mentioned the lack of subpoenas into the Cuomo administration, and you mentioned some of the attacks against the governor for the clouds surrounding Crystal Run. Specifically, this has been an issue with regards to advertising by Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Molinaro, who in a short television ad, which highlights corruption convictions in the governor's administration, it talks about Joe Prococo, it mentions Elaine Calieros, it brings in Todd Howe. The ad also it explicitly says that the governor is the subject of a probe regarding Crystal Run. Would that be a fair way to describe the ad?
Yeah.
And the governor's office has pushed back against this, saying we are not the subject of a probe. And the article that you guys cite in the little ad does not say we are subject of a probe. What do you think of this whole back and forth? Was that ad fair or foul?
And this is also a claim that Molinaro keeps making in press releases as well. So they're not backing off from it.
No.
It's certainly fair to say that these donations to the governor are under investigation. That doesn't mean that the Cuomo administration is under investigation.
Correct.
I also know that when the FBI has interviewed people, they're not just asking about the donations, it's also about the grants, it's about other things. So does that mean that the Cuomo administration is under investigation? I don't know if you could say that from that, but they are asking about other things besides the donations. So.
One of the other issues that came up in the conversation with the governor when he spoke with the Times Union editorial board was whether Crystal Run or anyone associated with the company had contacted the governor's office to alert them about problems with the donations. Because in a previous editorial board meeting where Sean Patrick Maloney, a congressman who's running for attorney general, basically said what to the Times Union editorial board? Congressman
Maloney told us that basically, Crystal Run had reached out to his office and said, we want these donations back, more than $35,000 in donations that we've made. We want them back. Maloney asked for more information from Crystal Run. Which makes sense if someone's like, hey, give me a few $10,000 back, right. $30,000, whatever. And so Crystal Run then sent Maloney a letter in April 2018, I believe, saying, we don't think you were aware of these problems, but there are some legal issues, particularly dealing with partnerships in these donations, and that's why we would like them to be returned. And that's prior to his AG run, if we're talking April 2018. This is just a sitting congressman who represents the area, I guess? Yeah, actually, that was before Eric Schneiderman resigned. Yeah, so. It's a month beforehand. Yeah. Interesting. And now the governor, when asked about this, not only did he say, no, I didn't get contacted, he also expressed a lot of skepticism that the Maloney campaign had ever been contacted, basically saying what you had said about they would be admitting to a crime, essentially. And when you brought that comment to the Maloney campaign, what did they have to say for themselves? They provided a copy of the letter that they'd gotten. And it was very odd that Cuomo launched into that sort of argument. I think he was kind of doing gymnastics to justify not returning the money from Crystal Run. And so
Do you know by heart his campaign spokesman's response when this issue comes up? I mean, it's essentially what?
We'll return the money if any wrongdoing is found. No donation ever influences policy.
And I think it's just that you wash and repeat for that one, no matter what
Right.
controversy comes up.
Just that, yeah, it was bizarre that he kind of accused a congressman and an actual ally in Congress, Sean Patrick Maloney, of lying. I think he was sort of just speaking off the cuff and theorizing as to how this situation could have possibly come about. And again, he's kind of trying to find rationales for not returning the money himself.
This week, you also reported on the status of the state contracts that Crystal Run has and how they've been spending some of the money that they received, how they've been trying to spend some of the money. Can you go into a little more detail about that?
They were granted $25 million in 2016. The way that it works is that they spend money and then the Department of Health reimburses them for costs that they're eligible to get.
Got to spend money to reimburse money.
So remember, I mean, this project, both of them were built by the fall of 2016. The controller didn't even sign off on the contract allowing them to get reimbursements till a couple months after that. So it's sort of odd that, everything's already been built, but now taxpayers are going to pay for it anyway for this private company. In terms of what Crystal Run has tried to get reimbursed for, it's been a broad array of things, including, as I noted in the story, mood music systems and expensive artwork to decorate the walls and fake flowers to adorn the lobby. And to their credit, the Department of Health has rejected those items. It has approved expenses like $1.2 million in office furniture, various medical equipment, and $6 million overall, and possibly more in the future.
So they're basically still hoping they get another $19 million, or is that money just up in the air at this point?
I guess they're just hoping for it. It will come down to whether the Department of Health signs off on further reimbursements. I'm sure that this federal investigation and the scrutiny by Cuomo's political opponents is definitely not helping in terms of getting more payments.
What's next on your radar for this story? I mean, I'm not saying you need to divulge your latest scoop, but where are you looking for this? Is it going to come from a law enforcement end? Is it going to be some sort of action by State Department of Health? Where does this story go from here?
I'm personally really interested in some of the fundamentals of how the fundraising came about. Still, like I said, I mean, it seems unusual that these doctors would come up with this idea of giving this much money in identical amounts. I'm really interested to know, did somebody who's been in the headlines otherwise, were they involved in setting up this fundraiser? I'm talking about like the Percocos or the Todd Howes of the world. We had these emails that I reported on where Percoco was in close touch with Hal Teitelbaum about doing various policy things for the company. So, I mean, I'm interested in that, although Percoco was not known personally as a fundraiser. Todd Howes certainly was. There's these connections where Crystal Run was writing letters on behalf of the CPV project that both Howe and Percoco worked for. How did they get involved with that? So I'm interested in pursuing those kinds of things.
And just generally speaking as well, before we go, you're our campaign finance guy here at the Times-Union. You're the guy who's digging through the filings. Things pop up to you that mean things to you that, go right over my head. How hard is it to wrap your head around all of this when we're talking about millions and millions of dollars? We're talking about $400,000 that got targeted here. Are you always on the lookout for the next Crystal Run? And how do you find them?
On this one, a source noticed it. Mm-hmm. So I'd say having good sources is better than being good yourself in any situation.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So other than that, I'd say just a lot of years of looking and a lot of years of reading and getting to know the context of things and just experience, and that's really it.
Well, Chris, I will look forward to reading everything that you keep coming out with, and I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
And that's our show. My thanks to Chris Bragg for joining me and sharing his insights. If you want to hear the governor's 10-minute conversation with the Times-Union editorial board about Crystal Run, check out the Times-Union online archives. The audio clip is embedded in the most recent story Chris did on the subject. If you're listening to the show on an Apple device, please leave us a review. It helps other people discover the show. Until next time, podcast adjourned.
Just heard I tried to get you.
Ah! This day sucks!